Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Yeah, that's me. How you doing? Welcome to the program. It's January 26th. Good God. Time keeps on slipping. Anyway, I just watched a video that a friend sent me, and God, this world is getting creepy. I mean, creepy. I think would be proper. This is about, for those of us who are concerned about artificial intelligence and, living under robot overlords, as my son said. This is something that's happening right down the street at Carnegie Mellon University. There's a video out of a robot that can shapeshift so that it starts out as a solid, actually the video shows a solid looking man-like, looks like a human kind of. It's got legs, arms, and a torso and a head. And this robot is stuck behind bars in a cage. And the video shows the robot escaping from the cage by changing its form so that it then becomes sort of a liquefied, so that it starts to sort of melt. It melts and then oozes itself out between the bars and then reconstitutes itself. Although I couldn't help but notice that when it oozed out, it seemed to leave part of itself sort of dripping on some of the bars. And you wondered if that stuff would have... God! So this is what they're doing over there. Now, I know what science says. They say, think of all the amazing things that you could do with something like this. Yeah, I suppose, we sat down. We could think of all kinds of amazing things. Good things. And then, on the other side of the coin, think of all the awful things that people and governments and malefactors could do with this kind of stuff. Oh, my God. I didn't read the whole thing that came with it, but apparently there was some sci-fi film 30 years ago that had something like this in it, but it was done. I mean, it was not possible. So it was done using other technology, with that movies have trafficked in, where you can make it look as if these things are possible. But now they are. And, or not quite. My sense is the CMU stuff is still a work in progress. And if you play your cards right, you'll be dead and gone before this brave new world is fully upon us. What a world. I don't know what it is about the news that has crossed my desk being my dining room table today. But it's, wow. Did you hear, a report, here is a report that's just in from the rich and powerful and their lives and their world. When you're part of that world, if you're a woman, a very important part of being a member in good standing is that you look perfect, right? You certainly are not overweight. you have no wrinkles, and you do whatever needs to be done to keep that appearance. You've seen the ads on television. I mean, the drug ads on television are hysterical. I used to enjoy them just for the laughs. Now they just annoy me. But the one, and many of you probably have heard this, for Ozempic, and that drug, prescription drug, very pricey, is intended for people with diabetes, and apparently does really well with helping to regulate it. And all you have to do is stick a needle in your gut once a week, and you stick it in yourself with a injection. One of the, the hysterical part of the ads is often at the end when they do the fine print. And they tell you, that this thing they've just told you is going to save your life could just as easily kill you. And the Ozempic ad, one of the fine print things is it could cause unintended weight loss. Well, that's all Americans need to hear. What? It can cause weight loss? So it turns out that Ozempic now is the hottest drug on the market, and it ain't diabetics who are running for it. And doctors are prescribing this off-label so that women can lose weight. And apparently it's not it's 10, 15 pounds like that. And here is a dermatologist in New York. See, that a dermatologist is the one who's prescribing a diabetes drug. And why would a dermatologist be even dealing in weight loss? Well, just a minute, I'll tell you. Dr. Paul Gerard Frank, a dermatologist in New York, says this: everybody is either on it or asking how to get it. We have not seen a prescription drug with this much cocktail and dinner chatter since Viagra came to the market. So this is what the 1% are doing. They're doing Ozempic. Now, this is not what the drug, as I've said, is supposed to be for. And in fact, since all these rich folks, because their insurance won't cover it because they're not diabetic, but they can handle it. It's nothing for them. Thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, but they'll pay it out of pocket, no problem at all. The problem is that people who really have diabetes, who have been prescribed the drug and whose insurance companies would pay for the drug, are finding it difficult to get because all these rich jerks are crowding them out. Now, here's the thing. And this is where I read this in the style section of the New York Times, one of the sections that I look forward to on Thursdays, because invariably it makes my blood boil. I look forward to seeing the sort of repulsiveness of the culture at the top end. The repulsiveness of the culture at the bottom end is, apparent, but the top end is often hidden from us. So the headline on this is weight loss regimen. I don't think putting a needle in your gut is a regimen. Weight loss regimen reveals an unwanted wrinkle. Well, it turns out that they love the way their bodies look when they're being Ozempicated, but rapid weight loss often ravages a person's face, especially since the people that seem to be doing this the most are in their 40s. I don't know why, but the article quotes the beautiful French actress Catherine Deneuve, who says, at a certain age, you have to choose between your face and your ass. And I'm sorry, if you don't get it, that's your problem. Turns out that fat on a face helps a face keep its good looks. Fat on your ass, not so much. So at some point, to lose weight rapidly ravages your face. It looks skeletal. You need fat to fill it out. So this is why the dermatologist was involved. And here's the dermatologist again. I see it every day in my office, he says. A 50-year-old woman will come in, and suddenly she's super skinny, but she needs filler, which she has never needed before. I look at her and I say, how long have you been on Ozempic? And I'm right 100% of the time. It's the drug of choice these days. Okay, so their ass looks better, but their face looks like hell. So then they go back to the doctor, and they get Botoxed or filled more needles in them. What the hell is wrong with these people? What unbelievable shallowness. I mean, I don't have to do it. I'll leave it to you to do your own rant. God, how disgusting. What awful humans. Ugh. And then they set the standard for how we are all supposed to look, which, of course, the standard that they're creating, they create with the help of plastic surgeons and, God knows what, and doctors up the gazoo, as we find out. And we're supposed to somehow look like that? Even if I'm saying that even if you argue that the way they look is so wonderful. I think the way, the look, I think it is off-putting. It just doesn't look quite real, ever. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them all of a sudden started melting before our eyes, sort of like that CMU robot. Wouldn't be surprising. And man, if you allow them, this is that kind of shape-shifting work being done. I can just imagine it being somehow applied to humans. God, jeez. Okay, two other articles that I came across in the last few days that got me thinking, I don't believe it. Now, we know that trust in institutions is way, 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 way down. And I see it in myself. Overall, it is a very, what's the word? It's a sign of my old age. It's not good. Why didn't I just say that at the beginning instead of looking for some friggin' 3-syllable word I can't find? Anyway, two articles that I read and enjoyed. Both articles I found really enjoyable. And yet I don't believe either. One is local, although I learned of it from the Washington Post, because the Washington Post got in on it and did a story. The other, I'm not so sure. That might have been the Washington Post as well. That's right. Let me start with that one, because this one is more problematic. This is a story. It's an adorable story about a 10-year-old girl. Do you guys know this story? This is the only reason I worry, because I don't watch the news anymore, so I'm not sure what the news is feeding you, and if you watch the news, and this is the kind of story they would. It's a wonderful story. A story of a 10-year-old girl. Scarlett is her name. And yeah, she's 10 years old. She lives in Rhode Island, and she loves Christmas. But she's begun to wonder about Santa Claus. And so on Christmas morning, this little smart Scarlett, who had her doubts, thought she would collect some evidence that could then perhaps be given to the police, who could help her determine whether or not Santa Claus had, in fact, been the person that delivered all these gifts to her. The family always leaves cookies for Santa and carrots for the reindeer. How sweet. And every Christmas morning, this little girl has found some of the cookies gone, and a bite in one of the cookies, and a nibbles on some of the carrots. And what she did is scarf up the bitten carrot and the half-eaten cookie, and she sent it to the local police in a plastic bag and wrote a letter to accompany it. And the letter said this: "Dear Cumberland Police Department, I took a sample of a cookie and carrots that I left for Santa and the reindeer," spelled R-A-I-N, how cute, "and reindeer on Christmas Eve, and was wondering if you could take a sample of DNA and see if Santa is real." Boy, kids today, I'll tell you. Isn't that something? Yeah. So on the receiving end, the cops were just blown away. And what would you do? I mean, you stop and think, well, this is like that classic, letter to say, how would you respond to this child? She's actually got the cops in a situation here, because what are they going to do? Tell her that is Santa's DNA. What are the cops supposed to do? Now this kid, listen to this other thing. This kid a few years ago, so this would be when she's 8, she was wondering about it then, and she set up a camera on her father's phone so that when Santa came, it would record his coming. And lo and behold, the camera recorded Santa on the phone. Clearly, that's her father or something, get up knowing she'd done this. Scarlett wasn't buying it, because she's, fake news. She grew up with all of it. She doesn't trust anything anymore. Scarlett suspects, she said, "I think that's been photoshopped." Okay, she's 8 years old. She says, "I think it was photoshopped." 2 years later, cut to the DNA, and she sends it off to the cops. The police chief in Cumberland, Rhode Island, was blown away. And he briefed his entire staff on this letter. And he says you could see them light up with excitement. So they loved this. And they ended up filling out an evidence examination request. They sent it on to the state health department's forensic division. And the chief of police said that the suspect, Santa Claus, went by several aliases, Chris Kringle, St. Nicholas, St. Nick. Anyway, on January 18th, the chief wrote Scarlett a reply, and it was that he had launched an investigation to find out if Santa Claus is real and if what his true identity might be, and that her evidence had been sent on to the lab. He also told her that he had a lead in the case because a suspect had been seen lurking in the neighborhood on Christmas Eve, a large man with a white beard and a red jacket. And the chief said that man is currently out of state up north and needs some time to coordinate his travel plans back to Cumberland. Apparently, he leads a very large team of workers who build toys and also maintain a small farm with about 9 animals that need constant care. Now, I don't know. So I'm reading this and thinking, Are you thinking what I'm thinking? I'm thinking any kid. She's 10, but at 8, she was already thinking, I don't think the Santa Claus thing makes a lot of sense. And she's setting up remote cameras. And now she's doing DNA evidence and sending it to the police. Don't tell me that a smarty pants like her, a suspicious smarty pants like her, doesn't know full well. Now, and I'll quote my son here, and I told you this, but I think it's so funny. When I was putting his tooth that had come out under his pillow for the tooth fairy, and as I was walking out of his bedroom, he said, Mom, I sure hope the tooth fairy doesn't turn out to be a cruel hoax like Santa Claus. Now, he was younger than 10. I think this whole thing is that we're being played. And it's adorable and it's cute. But there's no way this smart kid doesn't already know. And here's what it says. So the lab results come back, and she gets another letter from the cops that said, while our laboratory was able to apply the most current and technologically advanced methods to solving this case, we are not able to definitively confirm or refute the presence of Santa at your home. We all agree that something magical may be at play. So that's how the authorities dealt with this little girl. And it says in the article that Scarlett said that she suspected her mother and father were responsible for the bites in the carrots and the cookies. But with this new test result, now she thinks Santa is real and popped in on Christmas to drop off her gifts. Still, apparently, she was slightly irritated by the lab results. She had hoped they'd be conclusive. You know, I'm sorry. Do you buy this? Hey, Scarlett, I'm calling you out, kid. I am. I'm calling you out, and I'm calling your parents out, and I'm calling the whole damn thing out. I don't buy it. And it's things like this and you doing this that make all of us less and less trusting of each other. I don't buy it. I mean, I don't know at what age generally kids, learn. And I'm sorry if any kid just learned because they happen to be hearing what I just said. At what age? I think 10 is is pushing it. But what do I know? I know we all could use some magic in our lives. But good God Almighty, I just don't like being played. So I don't believe that story, as adorable as it is. Okay, the next one, the local one, which also I learned of from today's Washington Post, has to do with the Duquesne basketball game, I guess on last night. Duquesne was playing Loyola last night at their field house. And in the second half, some guy in a yellow hoodie, and they got video of it. I looked at the video. Some guy in a yellow hoodie carrying a bag and a McDonald's drink walked onto the court while they're playing. I think he got onto the court twice. And he was looking, he said, this is what the story said, that he worked for Uber Eats and he was delivering to someone at the game. You mean people at a game order Uber Eats and the Uber driver has to what? Go into is that possible? I don't understand anything anymore. Anyway, at one point they had to stop play. This guy apparently was there for 10 minutes before he did eventually find the person who had made the order and gave him their bag of McDonald's. Now, it says here in the Washington Post, the incident has predictably gone viral. And Uber Eats is loving it. Man, this will end up in commercials. This is all over the place. And Twitter, people watching who saw the guy, all hell broke loose. Even the coach, in his post-game, by the way, Duquesne won, in his post-game press conference, started with, only at Duquesne can a guy deliver food on the court during the game. Craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. Now, this is bull. This is clearly a premeditated. This Scarlett and Santa and Uber Eats delivering at the Duquesne game. I think they're both of a piece. And that is getting attention. Figuring out how to go viral. That this is the greatest thing anyone can do in their lives. As I'm the obituary writer for some of these people. Who knows? The guy delivering the McDonald's, his obit, and I hope it's many, 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 many years away, could well say he once became the talk of the nation, right? And little Scarlett will also have, who knows, a movie could be made. There's money. You can monetize this stuff. And look how quickly a national publication like the Washington Post jumps on these local stories and spreads them just a little bit more. We're all getting played all the time. And I'm reminded of who said it. I think it was Janet Malcolm, who's a great journalist and writer, known for getting all kinds of stuff out of people. And I think she said something that any journalist really knows, that what we do, I think she said, is morally indefensible. I might have that wrong. Check it out. I might have it wrong that it's even Janet Malcolm. Don't trust a thing you're hearing from me. I'm telling you that right now. And I remember when I first saw her quote, I thought I took great umbrage. I thought, what do you mean? What do you mean? Journalists are the truth tellers. But what she meant was, I know exactly what she meant. And I know it because of my working in television news. And you know it as a viewer, I hope, that quite often the reporter is intending to elicit a specific thing from their interviewee. And they'll go, I think Sally yesterday, talking about her interaction with Ted Koppel, was suggesting this. He wasn't going to let her play him, and she was trying to play him. She had an idea of what she wanted from him, and to try to hoodwink Ted Koppel, not a good idea. But most people, I think the morally indefensible thing is the only time in my career, at least that I remember, where I lied to the newsroom. I had been sent to get an interview with a family, and I think it had been a plane crash. I don't know. It was one of those, go interview the grieving, whatever, a family member. I don't know what it is. I remember as we drove, the photographer and I, to that house, I don't know where it was, or somewhere in the suburbs, I was thinking, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. And then when we got there, I said to the photographer, I can't do this. There's no way I'm walking and knocking on that door. No way. And what I can't remember is whether I fessed up or he agreed with me that we would pretend nobody answered the door. I don't know. But it's that kind of thing, that, that, how do you feel? What it is, that kind of thing. It is. It's morally indefensible. And it was that was very soon after I came here, before Channel 4 realized that I was not the reporter to do that kind of stuff. I was the reporter to do funny stories or feel-good stories, or, the story like this, either of the two stories I just told you, the Duquesne story or the smart little cookie who sent the cookies to the lab and who supposedly still believes in Santa Claus. Anyway, I forgot where I was. I got a caller. Good. Hello.
Happy Thursday.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm like you now. I went to 4 days a week, and now it's changed my life.
That's great.
So this is my Friday. I'm sorry, everybody else who's still working. But anyway, what you're talking about, the little girl and Santa and the Uber Eats things, it's all just attention, right?
Yeah. Getting
it's
attention.
All, look at me, look at me, look at me. Yeah. And it got me.
Celebrity is the be all and end all. It's not even anymore, I want to be rich, I want to be famous is the thing. Now, rich and famous is the best of all. But famous, and usually you can take fame and monetize it, right? Which is but being known, and it doesn't matter. I remember Tony Buttafuoco. Do you remember that name? Is it Tony?
Yeah.
Do you remember a guy? It was like a murder case. I forget what. It was just. It was some sordid thing with these awful people, and he ended up being famous. And it was then that I realized people don't care if they're famous or infamous. Right? No difference.
You know what? This is what I think is, it's causing the generational wars to some degree, even though people mine and your generations are just as guilty as younger people trying to get attention. But remember we used to do trivia night back in the day?
What do you mean? I mean,
I don't know
people
if
still do.
Well, no,
I did trivia night. What? Who?
Yeah, well, we used
Where?
to go down to the Irish pub downtown.
Oh, yeah. I did another trivia night just this week.
Okay, let me ask you this, because I did a semi-trivia thing, and it was about, they have a general history and, literature, and then they had like entertainment. And I usually do pretty well because I was a TV junkie back in the 60s and 70s. Okay.
You've aged out.
Yeah.
You've aged out.
But it's worse than that. Most of the trivia questions I didn't know them because the people were TikTok stars.
That's right.
The thing is, they really didn't have a talent. Nobody knows. I mean, I don't say nobody. I didn't know.
Well, there's lots of talent on TikTok. There's lots of talent on TikTok. Anybody with talent can put their stuff right out there and get famous. And there is talent on TikTok.
Okay, then I'm telling you.
There's a lot of crap, but there's a lot of talent.
But
I learned that from myself.
There's so much out there that, and everybody can be stars in their own world that they create or join. But at the same time, I think it creates a bigger problem in our society. And what I mean by that is there's less commonality than there ever was before. And I think you've discussed that before. I mean, we all used to sit around and watch All in the Family, for example. Maybe most people did. And then we could laugh about it.
Fewer choices. We had fewer choices. We had we had 4 networks: CBS, NBC, ABC, and PBS. That's all we had. So everybody was watching the same stuff. And that did help unify. There's no doubt about it. And now everybody is free to create their own entertainment universe. They're free to attempt to become a star, to break out into it. One of the things my son was saying about TikTok and the other things, in some ways, and this is a good thing, it has, used to be you had to know somebody or get lucky, somebody to get discovered, right? There's always been tons of talented people. I mean, people whose talent was never seen, never recognized. They were never able to get somewhere where somebody was going to pay them for it. Now, because of TikTok and other things, anybody can put their stuff out there, and if they're really good, it will get seen and noted. So you have this ability now for anybody to really make it, which was not the case before. So that's the democratizing aspect.
I agree with that, because TikTok, I think,
which is good.
Yeah, I think that's good because for example, I think, despite what people think who are really into classic rock or jazz or whatever, I think music is just phenomenal right now. There's so many options and so many talented musicians we get to see, and we would have never heard back, 30, 40 years ago. But the other problem is not only is it not just entertainment, people are able to create their own realities. And that's why you've got the QAnon morons out there who just believe all this craziness. So there's good and bad with it, and it's like, how do we navigate through this and maintain, a civil society? I guess is my concern.
Well, you know what? I throw up my hands. Everything's moving so fast. And I've truly aged out. I'm not trying to keep up anymore. It's a bitch for me because I was always so good at crossword puzzles and all that, and now I'm not because there's too much stuff that I don't know now. But that's what happens. It's just going to keep happening, right? Good to talk to you.
Yeah. All right. Enjoy your weekend.
Yeah, I will. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Hey, speaking of my weekend, you made me remember that I spent yesterday making doctor's appointments. Speaking of being an old coot. And the only time I could get, I've got an appointment for next Monday at 9 a.m. Now, listen, it's right near my house, and it shouldn't take long. And I'm thinking I might get back by 10 to my house. So I'm not quite clear. I should have told my producer this before, but I just remembered. So I guess what I'm telling you is I'm going to Monday's show might be a little late, but I intend to do it. Okay. As soon I'm going to run in from the doctor, unless I'm too depressed, I'm going to run in from the doctor and I'm going to start the show. So I just want you to know, as if you'll remember, but there's that. Have you heard what the latest, biggest thing that's being smuggled across the southern border is? It's not even humans. It's not fentanyl. It's not some scourge it's eggs. It's eggs. They've been seizing thousands of eggs coming from Mexico to the U.S. And the only reason is that the price of eggs has skyrocketed here, and in Mexico, not. I didn't know you couldn't bring an egg across the border. So now I've learned that if you're carrying an egg across the southern border and you own up, nothing will happen to you. They'll take the egg and they'll break it. That's the end of that egg, and you can go forward. If, however, you do not declare, I got a dozen eggs in the back, you could be in big trouble. Up to $1,000 fine. Not kidding. So watch out. You cannot bring uncooked eggs across the border, despite the fact that it's a thing now. And apparently, whatever, it's what you intend to do with the eggs. If they're for your own use, you won't have $1,000 fine. If you're going to sell them, commercially, then you're in more trouble. That's what it is. I have a caller. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Hey, I don't know if you said this. That was Joey Buttafuoco.
Joey. I said Tony. Joey Buttafuoco. And his scumbag girlfriend. And I forget what it was. But it was that Buttafuoco thing that made me realize that people don't care what they're known for. They can be known as, the greatest philanthropist in the universe or the most horrible scumbag on earth, and they're perfectly happy.
Another thing, you were talking about celebrities and not knowing who they are. That's what I was thinking when David Crosby died. They probably say, who the hell's David Crosby? Crosby's Nash and Young. And whether you like his music or they didn't like it, I think he contributed a lot to music. But that's funny how that changes. And I have to disagree with your caller saying about the music is more talented. No, it's the same music. There was good singers back then. There were good musicians. The only difference is these musicians that you go back were groundbreakers. They were developing music. So when the musicians now, they can copy something. They have a template to go by. So, and now you can learn music on video now, where you had to go listen to the song, get the old books and read the book. It took a lot to learn a song. Now you can learn songs like nothing. Now it's if you play guitar, but or any instrument. But it's they had a lot to work with, as I always say. That's my opinion.
Well, I think, and no matter, listen, every musician is always working, no matter what the year is. They're working off what has come before them. I mean, rock and roll came out of the music, mostly black music, from jazz and, bebop and all that kind of stuff. That and blues and gospel and, it's all, you can't be ripping. It's not ripping off as much as it's, knowing, wow, listen to that. That's amazing. And then building on it or doing something with it. And that'll always be the case. And I think there are new forms happening now. That's what hip hop, and certainly a new kind of form that's certainly
I had
made
to laugh at Paul McCarthy made a statement one time about the Rolling Stones. He said they were just an old blues bar band. And I said, well, they were a damn good one. it was
they
funny.
They sure were.
I was saying that guitar and the whole band, they have a sound that's so unique. And for somebody, and him, and the Beatles had a lot of good stuff. I mean, but it was funny.
Oh, yeah.
I just, when other musicians cut on other ones, like David Crosby said that he first met Bob Dylan, he thought he stunk. Yeah, and they were making Mr. Tambourine song.
Yeah.
The Birds, that album. That's, he said he thought he was terrible. And I said, well, he's got how many albums, how many songs? He's a great songwriter. I mean, you can't
he's amazing.
take it away from
amazing.
him.
No, I mean, there's a reason why. Yeah, he's got a Nobel Prize, for God's sake.
Right.
You've mentioned my two probably favorites, and that is Bob Dylan and Rolling Stones. Those are my guys. Those are mine. That just I can't get enough ever. So, and not that there aren't many others, but those are my two. Anyway, hey, thanks. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
The other thing I don't get, how, and I suppose I do. I shouldn't play dumb. In this country, as we know, we're murdering each other every 5 seconds. I mean, people are dead. Right now, somebody is being blown away. Right now. I can say that with great assurance. And we'll never hear about it. But all of a sudden, I mean, every once in a while, there's a case. And it's not a mass murder. Remember, you have to have 4. And yet it becomes, so it's like the second story on the network news. What is it that makes a case that media decide this is the case that we're going to follow? And I think the case right now is this murder case in, I don't know, South Carolina, is it? You can't get away from it. It's a guy from, I guess, a locally very famous family of lawyers and jurists and stuff, who is on trial for blowing away his own son and wife. Now, I got to tell you, guys kill their wives all the time, and they often blow away their kids as well. Why does this case, I mean, if people know that his name is Alex Murdaugh, I mean, you can't get away from it. It is being covered breathlessly. Is it because he is relatively wealthy and a member? I can see how that would be a big story in South Carolina. Why do we have to give a damn? I don't understand. What elevates it? As murders go, I guess it was a pretty cold-blooded one. Allegedly, I'm not. Who knows? The guy is just beginning to stand trial. And I guess there's all these storylines. I mean, they say that. I mean, the little town that this is happening in has been inundated with journalists from all over the place. They've set up food trucks on the town square. All hell has broken loose because this case has been, I don't know where it was decided. You think there's a cabal? Did they all get together and say, this is the one? I mean, it's unusual because there's not a beautiful woman in it. I'm not disparaging his wife, but I mean, there's not some sexy babe. You know how missing people, how all of a sudden a woman is missing and women are missing all over the place. All of a sudden one rises, and usually it's because she's a beautiful blonde, right? A black girl missing, a beautiful blonde. And this is a respected white family. I mean, so respected that apparently in the courtroom he's being tried, there has always hung a portrait. And it had to be taken down, the portrait, because it was of the defendant's great-grandfather. And it was hanging in the courtroom because he was a renowned jurist or something. I don't know. But, yeah, again, why? What do we give a damn? There's so many damn dead people and murders. What makes one rise to being the murder we're going to make everybody pay attention to? I don't know. I don't get it. Hey, I never said, did I say anything about, I just want to say right here and now, as far as I know, I have no top secret documents in my house. Do you? Yeah, I bet you don't even know. I think this whole thing is becoming laughable, and I think it suggests that I wasn't kidding the other day when I said, I think go look, you think George W. and Bill Clinton, you think those guys are now looking to see if they've got stuff? Because I'll tell you right now, I bet they do. I bet they do. And what it means, again, there's no real equivalency between Trump and Pence or Trump and Biden. Because, I don't have to go into why. But quite clearly, too many things are being labeled secret or classified. Too many people have access. Too few people have any sense of how you're supposed to deal with them. There's so much of that paper flying around that I have a feeling that the whole system is broken. What else is new? Speaking of broken systems, God. And again, not that you care, although this one is sort of the canary in a coal mine thing. There is a Supreme Court race in my home state of Wisconsin that has been garnering so much attention. And you would say, why? This is coming up in the spring, I think April election in Wisconsin. And it is already looking to break every record for money going into a judicial race anywhere in the country. This is a seat on the Wisconsin Supreme Court, supposedly a nonpartisan position. And yet, Ha ha, we all know it's totally partisan. And the reason all the money is going in is that both sides are desperate to get this seat because it will determine a gazillion things, like whether women in Wisconsin will be able to access health care, whether gerrymandering of the most unbelievable, clearly criminal kind will continue to be allowed. All of these issues that have corrupted our politics are just crystallized in this race. And I got to tell you, if the Republican wins, Wisconsin will essentially become a and no pun intended, a non-democratic state. The governor, you have to follow it, but it will be the Republican dream of totally taking over a state, gerrymandering it so that there is no way any Democrat can win. And if a Democrat wins, like the current governor is a Democrat, he was just reelected, they will strip him, because the legislature is totally controlled by the Republicans, will strip him of all his powers. And since the Supreme Court has been Republican controlled, they have signed off on the gerrymandering, say, oh, we don't see anything wrong with that. So this is huge, because it could well determine, I hate to tell you, perhaps the result of the 2024 presidential election, since Wisconsin is one of those supposed swing states. But it's big enough that millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. Disgusting. And you know where most of that money goes. Most of the money goes to these repulsive commercials that befoul radio and television and our highways and byways. And I feel for the folks in Wisconsin, because they are going to be barraged. And there was also another indication. It turns out Butler County, right here, got a whole big write-up in the New York Times yesterday because of its Republican Party. There is no county. I mean, Butler is as Trumpian as they come. Butler County is Trump country. And yet the Republican Party there has no leadership because they're at war with each other. So there's nobody who heads. They even apparently came almost to blows at what was it? Like a county fair or something? Just manning the booth at the fair, and security had to be called. But what it is emblematic of is the civil war taking place in the Republican Party itself. I think my sister was referring to it the other day, and I misunderstood what she was referring to. So the same kind of thing that played out with McCarthy and his attempt to become the speaker, with the insurgents and the more traditional fascists and all of that, is playing out at the local level, at the county levels, as these wackos attempt to take over county Republican organizations. And this is a playbook Republicans have used for a long time, never against themselves, but this is what they've done, and it's why they've controlled so many legislatures. They start low. They go in for these things that nobody wants to bother with, right? Running a county party, having to go to those meetings, blah, blah, blah. You take that, and then you take the school board, and then you take the state legislative races, and that's what's happening now. And Butler County, which was already Trump land, the people who were behind Trump there are fighting each other tooth and nail because some of them are total whacks and the others are just semi-whacks. God help us. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you if you've been there. And again, I'll talk to my producer about it later, but I think the show Monday will start, if not exactly on time. It's up to my doctor. We'll start, around 10. Okay? Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.